The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on. He missed the complete that. He's crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield before. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
The collapse of the Berlin Wall. Intel releases the 486 series of microprocessor. Rain Man wins the Oscar for Best Picture. And the Nissan GTP and the Audi GTO were the cars to beat on the track. Come with us now to the end of the 80s as the iRacing Kamel GT Series visits the Origami Pretzel, better known as Suzuka, for the final round on the 2017 fall schedule. And all the nostalgic multi-class sports car racing action from Green Flag to Victory Donuts can be seen live as it happens here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Konnichiwa everyone, and welcome to GSRC's Countdown to Green. Filling in for Joe Peak and Sean Ambrose way up in the press box to bring you our bird's eye view. It's yours truly, Bill Soupzon, joined by the quote potentate Justin Prince. Turning the knobs and pushing the sliders is our director Amjad Yaman, armed with cameras located, aimed, zoomed, and focused by GSRC's camera guru, Doug Beard. If you brought cyberspace into your place, then over the next 10 or so Streamy Award-worthy minutes, GSRC will bring you all the storylines, all the stats and facts you'll need to fully appreciate the 45 minutes of multi-class racing that will immediately follow. Now, anyone who's ever raced a slot car knows a figure eight is the best layout for an equal contest. So with that in mind, let me reintroduce my booth mate, Justin Prince, to tell us about Suzuka.
Thank you very much, Bill. Of course, today we're in Suzuka City, Japan, a track that opened in 1962 and is the place that started as a test track for Honda, believe it or not. This course has a variety of corner types, a few high-speed portions, and, of course, as you mentioned, a figure eight layout that offers more than an equal amount of left and right turns that make it perfect as a test track, but also a very challenging course in terms of a racetrack, as you see on that track map. Of course, it hosted F1 in 1963 and 64, and has also been modified a few different times, including in 1983 on the Casio Triangle, as well as the Dender Curve were adjusted and or added during that time. Of course, though, the best way to get an idea of what it's like to get around this track with its 17 turns in 5.8 kilometers is to go on board and take a lap around with the Nissan GTP for your GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC Nissan, so let's do a lap around Suzuka. Down the front stretch, you're going to be climbing to around 170 miles an hour, so the entry to turn 1 will require incredible precision. Slow it as it's turning and get it to bite through turn 2, which acts as a continuous corner. Switch sides quickly, and then you're chucked into the S's. The cornering speed of this machine means you'll be carrying quite a bit of momentum, but that doesn't mean you can get lax on the racing line. Keeping up your rhythm and setting up for each subsequent corner will be critical through here, or else you'll lose time hand over fist. Once you come off the final left-hander, you'll be flying through Dunlop, which is a frighteningly fast, flat-out sweeper. Hug the car off to the left and then spot your brake marker for Degner 1. You've got to be very aggressive on that inside curve, get it settled, and blow it up even more for Degner 2. As you fly under the bridge, the acceleration of this beast makes it a very short burst to the hairpin. That kinked entry will test the brave because you can get on the brakes very, very late. Try to square off the exit, but be careful about getting back onto the power. The turbo lag means you won't feel it until it hits the higher revs, and those low gear corners are gonna be touchy. You've got a little breather with turn 12, which is another gentle curve where you won't have to lift. However, make sure to keep the car off to the right to line up for spoon. The first apex here has a quick entry with a little squirt in the middle of the turn. The second apex is much slower and much more important to nail. Coming off of here will require excellent throttle control to get the most out of the long backstretch. The sooner you're on the gas, the more straight line speed you'll extract. 130R will be flat out, but I still wouldn't recommend trying it too wide. Drift the car off to the left and then try to get it slowed up for the Casio Triangle where you're likely to see some overtakes. Once again, this is going to be a real test of who has the best throttle control. The turbo is so powerful that drivers will be feathering it all the way around the final right-hand bend. The fastest cars out of here will be the ones making the most out of their right foot. Hopefully you kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Suzuka.
Joe Peak doing what he's quickly becoming famous for, talking us around a racetrack. This time, it's a lap around the figure eight that is Suzuka. And now let's take a lap around the point standings. Keep in mind that these points are based on official iRacing points. They are a driver's performance, not just during broadcaster races, but on every official iRacing event during the week for each round over the 12-round schedule. So because the season doesn't officially end until Tuesday, and this being Saturday, we won't be able to announce the official winners during the post-race show, but we can make a pretty safe assumptions. And let's start the assuming right now as we look at the GTP driver standings. Now, Keith Ritchie for Silk Cut Jaguar looks to be a lock for the GPP crown. His teammate Jamie Hall is in a battle for second with Toyota team's Robert Olenek. Another Toyota team driver, Nicholas Mukanos, sits in fourth. Ironically, you have to go way down to fifth before Nissan, the manufacturer that everyone is actually racing, finds an overlay, and that is thanks to Arto Iamaki. All right, let's go ahead and look at the team championships now. With Ritchie and Hall 1-2 in the driver's standings, it's no surprise to see Silk Cut Jaguar leading the team points. Likewise, Olenek and Mukano sitting third and fourth in the points, past Toyota team Toms in second. Amaki and McLeod have Nissan Motorsports Europe in third. Team Sauber Mercedes and Repsol Braun round out the graphic. Let's go to the GTO Driver Championship here. You got a Finn, a Brit, two Yankees, and a Norwegian filling up the graphic. Yanni Hagner is on top for All-American Racers. Cunningham Racing has Phil Lake. Brian Strodbeck, familiar to many GSRC viewers for Roush Racing, sits in third. Team Commodore has Ben Best Medicine Laughter close behind in fourth, with Obre Trengrade of Norway in fifth. 5 drivers, 5 different teams, so which team is doing the best? Let's look right now. But because of the unique and to be honest, challenging to understand point system, only 3 teams are actually eligible for the championship. You can see those teams right there, and the battle is very close between all, with I could think any team being close enough to get the win. GSRC, of course, will have the final totals for every championship during the pre-race show for round 1 of the upcoming 2018 season, so check in for that. What we can tell you, though, are the race details for today's event, and here's Justin to do that.
Thank you very much, Bill. Of course, as mentioned, it is the final round of the season today, with today being a 45-minute race as per usual. It is open setups, and no stop is expected to be required for fuel for this race, so it should be non-stop racing for the full 45 minutes here at Suzuka. The points, as mentioned, also run through the official iRacing point system, so the point standings have a chance to potentially shift around until late Monday on the East Coast time. As you see, though, the qualifying is continuing to wrap up right now. Looking at Andy Lapisto, for example, a lot of fast times on that track so far.
Nice turnout of cars here today, about an equal amount between the Nissans and the Audis. Of course, they'll be very different in speed. We'll have a rolling start. The classes will be separated by a few seconds to get underway. We think lap traffic will be a factor, as 45 minutes is plenty of time for these Nissans to get around this track and get on to the back of the Audis. Boy, those Audis look good, don't they? That they are as fun to drive as they look like they are fun to drive. My gosh, as we look there at Michael Frost putting in his qualifying lap right now. What's the weather like today, Justin? How's the conditions?
I'm glad you asked. Today it is, of course, a late afternoon setting, 69 degrees right now in the air, 80 degrees though for the track temperature, so it's somewhat on the cool side and warm side at the same time. While meanwhile, the winds are about 7 miles per hour at the moment into the southeast, so it's pretty windy out there with a 44% humidity on the track at the moment.
Suzuka always puts in a good show. There are several great passing zones. Of course, we have the hairpin as they dive down underneath. They go beneath the underpass down into 11, try to make a pass there. into Spoon, out of Spoon, into the dreaded 130R. But qualifying is done. Let's go to the grid right now. I'll take the GTPs. And, of course, it is our point leader, Keith Ritchie, up on top. Jamie Hall flanks him on the front row. Row 2, Rob Olenek and Antti Lepisto behind them. Row 3, Nicholas Mukanos, Clayton McLeod. Lambert Brink and Rory Collins make up row 4. John Keith and Martin Krezarek sits in the 10th spot. 11th and 12th, Jason Wallet and Hideki Koivisto.
Okay, and the times that were put in to start off with the GTOs, starting off with row 7, it's Brian Stolbeck along with John Mala. Ove Talaga Tor-Reed is starting in row number 8 along with Ben Lapter. Franco Scurry as starts alongside Miroslav Jurisic. Rob Heiser and Jason Dunfree start off in 19th and 20th overall in terms of times. The last car to record a time for the GTOs was Borisov Robernik. The time cars that did not record any qualifying times for GTEPs coming in with John G. Hill, Larry Knepp, Laurent Raffgel, and Mitchell Steiner. Michael Frost, the only car to not record a time for the GTOs.
16 GTP cars here today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 GTOs. A pretty good field as we're going to be racing for 45 minutes. You can see them start to line up there. Keith Ritchie, of course, the favorite in the GTPs. Brian Strodbeck, he's been on many a GSRC broadcast before. Most notably, a strong racer when we were covering the Continental Endurance Series, where he would be racing in the Mustang. He was a force in that car. You can see the shadows long and thin here under a low-setting Japanese sun as they begin to roll. We won't have a full pace lap. They're going to start just before the Casio Triangle, so they'll go through 15, 16, and 17. And then Keith Ritchie will get them underway as he will control the field.
Yeah, you see everyone coming right up to that grid. It's going to be a nice, interesting race to watch from start to finish as you see them going through here, coming towards that front straightaway.
That's another passing zone, getting into the Casio Triangle there. Then they get on the throttle to go down the main straight. The pace car peels. So does the roar of the engines. Gather up the chickens, take cover behind the cows, because the horses are out of the barn. And it's Keith Ritchie leading Jamie Hall, Rob Olenek, Antti Lepisto, and Nicholas McConnell making up the top 5. Justin, let's go back. What do you see for the GTO?
Right now with the GTOs, they are way far behind right now at this point to start things off, with Stolbeck leading off that charge at the front of the pack. Mostly everyone going single file. John Mahala in second, Tor-Reed in third, with Ben Laughter already in a comfortable 4th spot. The top 6 separating very quickly from Dunfree, who's sitting about 7th in the class.
So far, so good. All the cars are still on the track as they race. Moving back up to the prototypes now. Keith Ritchie heading down into the hairpin for the first time. This is a passing zone for the drivers who really want to do it. We'll see who's going to be aggressive on the first lap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all going in single file. So far, so good. This series has a reputation of being a little bit messy. Not living up to that reputation right now as all the prototypes are through the hairpin. Let's see how the Audis do.
And all the Audis are coming right into that hairpin right now. You can see everyone close up together. The top 6 all bumper to bumper just about. Bad exit for Ove Tellengreen out of that corner, meanwhile, giving the top 2 cars a big-time gap between them. Stolbeck still leading the charge, and now Tor-Reed moving into the grass and losing a bunch of spots as he's going to fall all the way back into 6th. Carl Luce, meanwhile, coming through the corner. And I think that was Franco Cervi who had lost a spot, in fact, as well to Tor-Reed by getting loose in that corner.
Trend grade, we know him a lot. In the Lotus 49 that we see him cover, that's a tough race for him. He sits up in the points right now. He'll have to get that all back. We look at him still racing in 5th position. Meanwhile, back up to the prototypes who have made their way through the Casio Triangle, completed the first lap, and are now working the way through the snake. It is still Keith Ritchie out in front. Jamie Hall Antti Lepisto, Rob Olenek, and Nicholas Mokanos behind him. Not a lot of passing going on. Some seriously clean racing, as we still have all the drivers on the track putting in lap times right now.
Yeah, it's been a nice clean race so far. You see the GTPs right there running about single file. A little somewhat messy in the similar situation with the GTOs, but still clean overall. Oh, Tengarade has been able to rebound from his mistakes to stay in the top 5, for example, in those GTOs, because he did get a little loose and lost his 3rd spot because of that. So right now, everyone's just trying to settle on in. It is a long race, of course, here at Suzuka.
It's got to be a bit of culture shock for Tengarade, as he just had to put in a race at the combined Monza combined in the Lotus 49, that he has to totally switch his mindset, come over here and race a car that has a top on it. Let's go ahead and look at the leader of those GTPOs right now, and that is Brian Straubeck. John Malia is still trying to run him down, but he's back by about 0.8 of a second, holding that interval, but not able to close up. They are distancing themselves from Ben Lafter, though, who's back there. He does not find this funny, as he is falling. He is now 2.1 seconds behind the top 2. Great battle for 20th overall, though, 4th in class. And this is Miroslav Jerzek in a battle being hounded by Tengarade, who wants to get this back.
Yeah, and Tengarade, you see here, trying to rebound, like I mentioned, with those mistakes in Spoon on the opening lap. So you see Tengarade having a little bit of an earlier breaking point here, and that's leading to the better exit compared to Jurek coming into the Casio triangle, as you see, because you see here sometimes the definition is if you back up your corners a little bit more, you'll have a faster exit. That's the case now. Tengarade now position himself in a good spot here, still about though 0.2 back.
Stay on this a bit. We'll see if he makes a move into one. Trengarade's going to rate. Franco Scurry got up right behind him. The accordion effect really brought him in there. But Tengarade really good as he works his way through 2. It's like one sweeping corner, 1 and 2. Now through this technical section. Going to be hard to pass through here as the Norwegian driver is just going to have to follow him around. This is one of the best battles on the track right now, as everyone else is stretched out nicely. Very, very clean. All cars still on the lead lap, still racing. We'll stay on this one as we look at Tengarade working on the back, trying to find his way around Jerzek. Not going to happen.
Yeah, the main reason, I think, too, for Tengarade to have the speed as he's been having so far here in terms of the last lap, he was about 0.7 faster than Jurek on the last time around, so he is keeping things going.
Stay on just a minute as they work their way through the hairpin. Nothing going to happen on that one. So we have another battle now that our director has found. Where are we going to go, director? P6 overall. This is going to be, are we looking at Clayton McLeod? Yep. He's trying to run down Nicholas Mercanos in 5th. And behind him is Lambert Brink. These guys separated by about 5 or 6 car lengths each. Mercanos in the points in the prototypes, running in 5th right now. Go ahead.
I was going to say here, because McLeod, as you see, trying to get some distance, but I think at the same time he's somewhat struggling with the in and outs, like through the snake, for example. He lost 1/10 just like that, but here's, I think, where the advantage point is. He just stretched it back to where it was before all the ins and outs. But Brink's not, of course, going to give up. You see Brink going with a little bit deeper driving in, but the exit, as you've seen behind there, is going to cost him a ton of time, in fact. As you see, 0.2 just in that one corner alone heading to Spoon.
As we're about 7 minutes into the race, the prototype leaders are about halfway around before they start to pick up the GTOs and have to do some lapping. Right now, Straubeck has clean air in front of him. I apologize. It's the leader of the GTPs is Keith Ritchie. Straubeck, of course, reading the GTOs. And let's look at this Ritchie here as Jamie Hall hanging with him.
Hanging with them, and even though it's about 2.3 seconds back, it's still about a similar pace overall, Bill.
Right, close enough when they get into traffic, he'll be able to pull back up. Paul has about a 1 second lead over Antti Lepisto. And then Rob Olenek back there in fourth. Those four guys beginning to distance themselves a little bit. It's a little farther back to Nicholas Marcanos. And again, equally spaced. The Nissans are not a lot of battling going on. See if I can find a battle anywhere farther back with them.
Speaking of the battle you see on the screen, Tengareed, we were mentioning him. He just got by Jurek right into the corner before Spoon. We're going to see the replay right here as he positioned himself very well through the tight hairpin. Just a wide exit for Jurasek, setting it up for Tengareed. And now Tengareed, he's pulling away very fast. He's already 7/10 in front of Jurek. Now Franco Scori will try and do the same thing to him.
Yeah, Jurasek was the cork in the bottle there. Tengareed waited and waited and finally get that done. He's got about 4 seconds before he gets up to Ben Laughter, so we'll have to get his work going on. Scurry gets around Jurasek now into the Casio triangle. And I'm not sure if he just didn't pull over. He took an inside, just kind of waved him by, I think. Or either had a slowdown penalty that he had to serve from previously. So Jurasek back to, that would be 6th in class now. Franco Scurry up into the top 5.
Just made sure of this right now. It was a time penalty because he had an off track on the inside. You've seen the rumble strips right before the Casio triangle. He cut in, I think, too much and probably had a time penalty of about half a second to a second, which had resulted in having him have to give up the position.
Well, since things are settling down, let's give a little screen time to some of the guys farther back in that GTO class. How about the driver 23rd overall? I believe he is 7th in class right now. That is Jason Dunphy. He's got about almost a 2-second lead over Rob Heiser. And again, these guys are equally spread out. Heiser then, it's about 6 seconds till we go all the way back to Bronislav Rubinek. Bronislav racing all by himself as it's 6 seconds up to Heiser and 6 seconds back to the driver that's chasing him, Michael Frost.
And I think it's a perfect segue because guess who just got lapped? Michael Frost by Keith Ritchie, as now Ritchie is the first car to get by. Frost just went right up and crashed in the hairpin, flipping over.
A little bit of loss of concentration. The car just got loose before getting into the hairpin, and my gosh, poor Michael Frost, he was on screen for 20 seconds, and we caught that.
Yeah, just as the lap traffic starting with the GTPs catching him too. Some bad luck for him, and now that's going to score off.
We're looking, Lambert Brink has had an off. He was racing 7th in the prototypes. He gathers it back up, does not put it in the wall.
Yeah, you see exactly what happened here. You see here he's getting a little bit loose, trying to catch to the right. He probably flicked the wheel a bit to the right, and it just led to it spinning right off the track just like that. And it lost him a lot of time. He's still in 7th in the class, but now John Keith is coming up right onto him.
Didn't lose a position. Only thing hurt was his pride. But this opens it up, as Justin just said there, to John Keith, who's coming. Meanwhile, let's see what we got with our leader here. As he has another, as we go back up to Richie, as he works around another GTO, he gets around Rob Heiser. Heiser is running, I think, about 8th in his class, so it won't be long till those prototypes, as he goes around another one, he gets around Dunphy. Fortunately for Richie, the GTOs are nicely spaced out. He can just kind of pick them off one at a time. Nobody really battling.
And nobody really battling, and right now I think at this point, some cases, I think you use some of the GTOs if you're a GTP driver as kind of a pick if you're in that close battle situation. But right now, it's just everyone's spaced out evenly enough to where you're basically passing a car every few seconds if you're the GTPs, with the GTOs coming right through.
Yeah, the GTPs are equally spaced out, and they are coming one after the other. Franco Scurry gets lapped for the first time, gets out of the way. Next up, Ove Trengere.
And as you've seen in the backdrop, that was Miroslav Jurasek coming right off track and struggling to get into the Casio Triangle just as the GTPs were starting to get by him. You've been seeing him struggle with some of the lines into some of these corners, and once again, that same corner sequence heading to Casio Triangle costing him a ton of time.
Miroslav does not seem comfortable in the car. He qualified much faster than he's racing right now. And he is really struggling. Let's stay on this a minute as he's about to be lapped by the Nissan. That is Nicholas Mukanos going around. And now he gets going by is Clayton McLeod. Miroslav was as high up as 4th, but now he has fallen back. All right, let's look at John Keefe. This is a battle for 8th. He's got Rory Collins behind him. Now, Keefe qualified in 9th, Collins in 8th, so they have swapped positions from the starting grid. Collins would like to get that spot back. They work through the second Degner. Now heading down in the hairpin, working around Rob Heiser in the GTO. Down into the hairpin, there is some traffic in front of them now. They have Jason Dunfree to get around. Lambert Brink in the Nissan has already set the stage for that. Dunphy knows they're coming. He gets out of the way. There goes Collins. Keefe is already through.
And at this point, the last of the GTPs have gone through and passed and lapped the entire GTO field. Stodbeck has now been passed by, and all the rest of the leaders are coming up, and I think all these cars have set up a battle for second. In fact, for the GTPs, Jamie Hall and Andy Lapisto have now had the gap close right up, with Lapisto getting a good little draft off and digs it in there for the pass.
My gosh, took that in deeper than beatnik poetry, and now they got to straddle the driver in front. That's the leader in the GTOs. Strodbeck gets out of the way, and the two Nissans go by, Lapisto and Hall. Ooh, my goodness, what a great pass by Antti Lapisto as he moves up now second. Does he have the pace to run down Richie? The gap is almost 4 seconds. We'll mark that.
Yeah, absolutely good timing there, I think, partially using, I think he got better around some of the cars because the gap was fairly apart at 1.2, and now all of a sudden he was able to get it, use the draft, and end up drafting right by and diving into turn 1 for the pass. And you see here Lapisto having better exits compared to Jamie Hall. He's already getting as much speed as he can, still 3.8 seconds back of Keith Ritchie.
And if you drop back to 17th overall, the leader of our GTOs, that was Strodbeck, his time was just crushed back there as he fell actually back to 1.6 seconds between him and John Malia. Oh, we're looking there. Lapisto almost has a mistake. Oh, Cavisto, the Finnish driver. John Hill, actually, Hill started with Hill as Hill tries to get around Jurasek in the GTO. That got him confused. He spun it. The car stayed out on the track. Then it rolls back out in front. Jason Dunphy takes evasive action, but Hideki Koivisto had nowhere to go. Actually, pretty much parks the car. Oh no, he didn't park the car. He parked the car after smacking into him.
Yeah, I think he used him as the parking space or the parking brake. But for Koivisto, that's going to be a fair amount of damage, I think, on that front end. In fact, it is, especially on the left front near the headlight, a little bit crushed in from that.
Keith Ritchie out in front. No pit stop scheduled in this event. This is 45 minutes of sprint racing. So if you have to come in for repairs, that's going to end your day. We look at our leader right now, Keith Ritchie. You can see that the point I was trying to make was the gap got down to about 1.6 seconds when all that nonsense was going around around him. Let me correct myself. Oh, I'm sorry. Got a multi-class racing. That was Brian Strodbeck who had that gap closed. Let's go to Strodbeck right now. Let's talk gap. Down to a second. He is coming. And you know who the he is? It is John Malia. He has to get out of the way as the two prototypes go by of Brink and Keith.
Yeah, but as you see here, Stolbeck still taking advantage, I think, partially because of the faster cars, because Malia was forced into a tighter, very tight entry for the turn, so he's now lost about a second because of that. But Stolbeck, he's in the same situation. You see this with multi-class racing. He's on the high side where it's a tougher line, and already that gap is closed about half of what it was just out of the last corner with the hairpin.
Keith was stuck to the inside, so he's going to lose a little momentum as he tries to run down Brink for 7th in class. Let's go back to Strodbeck now as he gets around. Collins gets around him now. The gap back up to 2 seconds. And the prototypes keep coming.
Yeah, they keep on coming, having fast times. If you look at some of these times, the top drivers running 1 minute 47-second lap times. The fastest GTO is in past the 2-minute mark. So that shows just how much difference there is in speed in terms of these classes. As right now, some of these drivers making it very tough to get by some of these classes. Stolbeck already right in front of Martin Krzyzurek, trying not to move because he knows Malia is right behind him, finally letting him on by, but Malia closed the gap a little bit because of that. In fact, Stolbeck, losing a fair amount of speed on that exit.
Yeah, the gap 1.5 seconds from Strodbeck back to Malia. Malia, a very quiet race back there in 2nd. He has nothing to worry about behind him as Ben Laughter is almost 10 seconds back. Laughter, though, does have to worry about the man trying to make up for the early mistake over at Trengrade. As Trengrade is trying to hunt him down. Rounding out your top 5 in those GTOs, then, we go all the way back to Frankel Scurry. We've seen Scurry climb his way through the field. So there's your top 5 in the GTOs. How about in the GTPs? Well, it's Keith Ritchie. He's opened it back up to 4 seconds now on Anti-Lepisto. Try as he might, Lepisto just can't seem to get there. Lepisto has about 1.3 seconds on Jamie Hall. Hall, after he was passed by Lepisto, doing his best to hang on to Lepisto's coattails. He's got about 2.2 seconds back to Rob Olenek, racing in 4th. Nobody for Olenek to worry about, as Nicholas Makanos is way back, almost 8 seconds, running in 5th.
Yeah, things gapping out with the GTPs too. Coyne and McLeod still in 6th, about 3.6 seconds back as you see him working to the snake. Lambert Brink still hanging on to that 7th spot, way on back a little bit, 10 seconds as he's pulled back away from John Keith. Battle though for position number 12 involving Jason Wyatt and Michael Steiner at the moment.
Both those cars is able to get around Miroslav Jurasek in the GTO, so now they are battling here. Jason Wallet back there sitting in 12th. Let's look at the run that Steiner has. As he closes in, they go into this 1 and 2. It's a sweeping almost one corner. Then to this technical section of the snake. This is fun. This is all about rhythm here. Hard to pass, but it is. You got to dance with the rhythm of the road as they work their way through 3, 4, 5, 6, down into 7, which is going to be Dunlop. This is the left-hander that sets up the drive down into Degner's 1 and 2. They work their way around. That is Franco Scurry. Scurry does a good job of scurrying out of the way, and they let those guys by. This battle continues. This is one of the best battles on the track right now.
Yeah, it is. You see there Wyatt trying to hang on in front as you go underneath the bridge for that figure 8 section. The hairpin right here could be helping Steiner here position it. Wyatt has a very wide exit.
Missed. I think he just missed the braking zone there, or took that defensive line, and then he just has to surrender that spot, so he falls back. Move Michael Steiner up into 12th. Next for him, well, he's got 13 seconds before he gets up to the Finn Hideko Koivisto. Even though Koivisto nosed his car into somebody, Koivisto's still out there running some decent lap times.
Yeah, he is Koivisto running still 153 lap times. That's still about 7 seconds slower than the leaders right now, but that's still good enough pace to really separate himself and lock himself somewhat into that 11th overall spot.
Laurent Rafagou in the hairpin just decided to pretty much park the car on the grass, let everybody go by. He's the last car in the prototypes, didn't want to get in the way of anybody. I understand, I've been there.
Yeah, good racecraft right there, and something I think might have just happened to Jason White because Michael Steiner decided to pull into the pits. Yeah, Michael Steiner pulled it into the pits. Something going on with him. We weren't supposed to have a scheduled pit stop for the Kamel GTs today, but for whatever reason, deciding to elect to bring it on in.
I don't see he was leading, and I'm not sure why he came in as we're looking at this battle now. This has been Laughter, and we've been talking about it. He's been coming, and he has now arrived. And that is, of course, Ove Trengeri. That gap, 0.8 of a second. Remember, Trengeri was fast, had an early incident. Put him back. He has worked his way back up.
Yeah, good for the recovery right there, the way he's been running, because he's still running at the exact same pace as the leaders for the GTOs and was still able to close up this gap. Laughter's still a second behind, but now he's got Jason White to worry about. I'm thinking right here, if you are Trengeri, you are going to use Wyatt here as kind of an advantage, because coming right up here with Laughter not being in the exact line possibly when this comes right up with Wyatt, he might be able to push the car a little bit in this corner right about here and close up that gap. In fact, he pushed it a bit too much, going way wide of the curve.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, that Nissan gets onto the back of Laughter, probably at the worst position. Laughter almost thought maybe it was going to go around. He kind of didn't take a good drive through the Casio triangle, and now he's going to have to hope that the Nissan can get by him before he gets into corner number 1, and he does. No, he doesn't. Look at this. This is going to slow him down, and here comes the Norwegian as he is right up behind him. Ove Trengeri running him down. That was all about lap traffic being in the way of Laughter.
Just as I mentioned, trying to take advantage of the cars around you or the situation around you. In that case, taking advantage of the faster car, forcing Laughter to have a struggle really in the past couple of corners with this line. Now Trengeri.
Let's leave that. Let's go to P2 in the GTPs real quick, because this is really exciting. This is Lepisto being round down by Hall. They just went around Miroslav Jurczyk. My gosh, Miroslav had to say, what was that about? Lepisto has been chased down. Hall is on fire. He wants that spot back. 2 battles to watch now. The P2 in the prototypes and P3 in the GTOs.
Yeah, everything's starting to heat up here as the tire wear is starting to build up on these cars, and the times continue to slowly but surely slow back down with the worn tires, as you see Jamie Hall working his way past some of these lap cars, having to dig his way through.
As we watch this battle, I can report that Laughter and Trengeri still race in that order. Trengeri not able to get anything around him yet. Lepisto, though, is really being hounded by Hall. Remember, Hall was up in front. Lepisto made the pass. Could not drive away, and here comes Jamie Hall back. All this happening about 3.2 seconds behind Keith Ritchie. Ritchie looking to go wire to wire, as is Brian Strodbeck in the GTOs.
Yeah, Strodbeck at this point is very comfortably ahead in his own world for the GTOs. As you see, 3 seconds ahead of John Mahalat, still separating himself out even more at this point. But of course, that is still up for the case, still for the podium, I should say, because Trengarade and Laughter, as you mentioned, still close together. Trengarade trying to position himself through the snakes because he's been able to get some faster runs through these corners to be able to close up the gaps in front of cars behind him. And look at this. He might be able to take advantage with the GTP right in behind him.
How about Keith Ritchie waiting on that one? He said, I don't want any part of this. I'm going to wait till a more opportune time. Now he gets in the middle. He works to the right. He works to the left, and he's through. Trengarade, really, I think Trengarade has a much better chance of passing Laughter than the other battle we were watching of Lepisto and Hall. Trengarade all over him right now, but they have to deal with another prototype coming through, and that is Lepisto. In fact, you want to look at both battles? Here they are all at once. It's an eclipse. Lepisto and Hall right next to Laughter and Trengarade. Oh, and that is Hall off into the beach. He brings it back in there. He's going to lose a lot of time, though, to the man he was chasing. Lepisto has to say, whew.
Yeah, quick apology from that, from coming from Laughter with him going into the grass there, or into the stand as well. Trying to build sandcastle. You don't want to build sandcastle in the middle of a race. And we got something going on. John Keith spun around into the grass. Let's take a look at the GSRC replay. You see John Keith here just going way too fast in the section. Just spun it around, hooked it to the right. Got it back and going, spinning it with a 180. He's still going in 9th position right now, losing 1 spot to Rolly Collins.
A couple other prototypes got through there. Olenek got through the battle we were watching, and Larry Krupp as well, but of course Larry was not in a battle. Let's go to Laughter. Here comes Trengarade. Man, he is all over him. Trengarade looking to the left, looking to the right, working both sides of the street like a jaywalking mailman, trying to find his way around. This is not funny for Laughter, as Trengarade is all over him as they go through the S's.
Yeah, you see through the cockpit right now, Trengarade having to let off the gas and actually tap the brakes a little bit to make sure he doesn't hit the back of Laughter. He's looking for any hole Laughter's leaving up here in the Commodore car.
The problem is, Trengarade is so much faster through the technical sections where it's impossible to pass. Now we have another Nissan coming up behind him. This is Nicholas Mukanos, who's racing in 5th position overall, or in that class. Well, actually 5th overall as well. They go into the hairpin. Oh, I think that might be a mistake from Laughter, but he has the momentum. Trengarade tried to tuck it in tight, couldn't get the bite off of the hairpin. They have to make way. Oh. The Norwegian going all over the place.
Yeah, having to go and move away a little bit with the GTP behind him. I think he just went way too fast, in fact, to try and let the car by at the same time to keep up with Laughter. Still keeping up with the pace. You've seen, though, they have to dodge Larry Knapp before the hairpin, who is in the wall.
Now, we were talking, let's go to Lepisto in second real quick. I want to talk about him. We talked about that battle. It's 2.1 seconds back to Jamie Hall. We thought that was close, but look up ahead. Keith Ritchie now 1.5 seconds ahead of Lepisto. Lepisto is doing it. Did Ritchie make a mistake? Did traffic slow him down?
I think it's part traffic, part Lepisto, because Lepisto, I've seen him a lot of times in road action. He is always somebody that is a driver to watch in every single class of car, and today is no exception. He's still running about 0.3 of a second faster. I think it's just a matter of being able to work through the technical corners better, so to speak, in terms of timing it out right. So right now, that has helped, I think, Lepisto with the gap on top of having to negotiate with the lap cars. And now they're going to have to pretty soon negotiate with lap cars from their own class, with Jason Wallet coming up right in front of these two.
And that actually is harder to deal with than going around the classes, because the closing speed is so much different. You have to work a little bit harder. So we'll keep a watch on.
Hold on 1 second. Pardon 1 second, because there was a little incident involving Borosov Robanek and as well as Hideki Korovisto in the Casio Triangle, where Korovisto got into his second incident of the race. Let's take a look at the replay.
Two classes getting together there. I'm not sure. Korovisto, eventually that car on the outside has to turn in. Rubinek That's a strange one there as I look at it again. Did Rubinek turn in too soon? Koivisto will ride on by with Rubinek. I see Koivisto on the outside. Boy, I guess Rubinek didn't need to turn in there from the cockpit view. It looked like he kind of turned in on him, maybe surprised to see the Nissan show up on his inside.
I think that might be the case there because Koivisto just drove right on by Borisek in the lap traffic, but we still have that position battle we were talking about with those GTOs with Laughter and Tengerade still. They approach that Casio triangle right now. I don't know if Tengerade's going to try the same thing. He's closing in fast.
The defensive line from Laughter now. Let's see if Trengarade can make him pay for it later on. Actually, though, since this is such a left-right-left, you can actually take the defensive line without it costing you too much because you can get back on the racing line later and still get a good drive off of the corner exit out of the chicane. This is a commentator's nightmare here, this Laughter Trengarade battle, because you have to keep an eye on it the whole time. You don't want to miss it. We want to get it to you live. But Trengarade just can't seem to do it with 11 minutes of racing to go.
And you can see...
Oh, no. Miroslav Jurasek had an issue.
Yeah, Jurasek struggling still this time. I think when braking, I think locked it up. Bobble to the right, bobble to the left. Bounced off the wall. Incident there. The battle we were talking about, they're going to now have to deal with some lap traffic who is almost colliding behind them.
Laughter and Trengarade get through. That is Collins and Krupp. Now remember, Krupp is a lap down. This one really doesn't. He really can take his time. Collins racing 8th overall, 8th in class as he comes up through the hairpin behind these guys.
Yeah, but take a look.
Oh, here's the run. There's the run from Trengarade. He's side by side now. A bad exit from Laughter, but Laughter able to get the power down. Man, it's almost like they're driving different cars there as Laughter really slow out of the corner, but then the car got going. Now they let through the Nissan. That is Collins. They both get a good drive through that final corner of Spoon.
I think if it wasn't for the traffic, he would have stuck with the line where Laughter was because you see all these GTPs driving right on by. So not really the greatest situation there, again, to be able to get in position for the pass.
But Laughter wants Keith by before they get to the chicane. And he almost slows down to make sure, oh, now look at this, he's going to be stuck to the outside. This is an opening for Trengarade, but where is Trengarade? Is lost, buried behind a swarm of prototypes in front of him. That's Krupp, Kirasek, Steiner, all got around Trengarade.
And all that broken up the battle basically to 2.2 seconds, all because of having to deal with traffic. And you can see him going up into that grass. Laughter right now, still running now in that 3rd spot, in the great spot for the podium spot. He just has to make sure he keeps it on track because he might just have enough time to keep it out in front.
That battle between the Nissans, none of that is for position as they are all on the lead lap, 1 lap down or 4 laps down. That's Krupp trying to get around now. You got to be careful. Michael Steiner in the mix as well. And maybe all of that will allow Trengarade to get back up there. My goodness, I went back to look for Trengarade, and he was buried behind a wall of prototypes. Meanwhile, up in front, what we thought was Lepisto trying to run. Oh my goodness, right up in front of Richie was Miroslav Jurasek, who was off. That's all right. Richie handles it. That gap, 2.6 seconds back to Lepisto. How's Lepisto doing with Hall? Well, Hall's having trouble.
Hall's having trouble. He's now back 4.6 seconds. And we got something going on P number 6, and that is Clayton McLeod and Lambert Brink. Look at this. Brink's got the draft.
All right, let's force the issue here. He's going to take it in deep. But he backs out. He brakes. And lets McLeod go by. Oh, but now McLeod pushes it. Both those drivers have target fixation. They both take it wide.
Yeah, if you heard what was going on there in terms of the pedals, McLeod did not even let up going into turn 1, didn't hit the brakes until turn 2, leading to the wide exit. And I think Brink basically gassed it out of 2 and probably was expecting him to be there, essentially like parking the bus and laying off school kids for a nice day at school.
I'm not letting any of these guys drive my kids to school. I know that.
Oh, God. Okay, I definitely agree with you on that with some driving. I see, but we still have this nice battle here because McLeod and Brink are still close to each other right now.
That is a battle for 6th. I got one eye on that. I got my other eye looking at Laughter and Trengarade, and then my third eye keeping an eye on both of our leaders.
Yeah, and look at this, Trengarade. He fell back to about 2.4 seconds, closing the gap quickly on Laughter because Laughter, even though he had all that time built up because of the lap traffic, using that to his advantage, guess what? He still had to let them on by, and after he let them on by, he still struggled to keep the gap. He was about 1.5 seconds slower, as you see on the last time by. That is a huge difference between these two drivers at this point.
With apologies to the fans, friends, and family of Ben Laughter, I think he is clearly slower than Trengarade. Unfortunately, Laughter is really good at racecraft, and Trengarade try as he might, cannot find his way around, and he's been trying to do it for the last, I would say, 30 minutes. He's been really working hard.
Yeah, and with about 6 minutes to go, you have maybe 3 laps at the most to get it done, so I think at this point, you might have to consider possibly diving it in there at one point or another if you're Trengarade, but without causing both of you to get into an incident somehow.
Yeah, there's racecraft during the race, and there's racecraft on the last lap when you're battling for position. Personally, I would not hold it against Ovre Trengarade. It's the last race of the season. What can he do?
Yeah, right now you see him still behind. I think right now, as you see with Laughter on the lower line, already getting to a defensive line, and Trengarade trying to use that pull or toe to close up as Laughter struggles into turn number 2, closing the gap again.
Remember, these are open setups. We don't know how these guys have their cars set up. Trengarade clearly, again, faster during the technical sections. If the Norwegian could get around Laughter, it would be good night, nurse.
Yeah, once again, you see there, same situations we've seen the last time in the cockpit. That time a little bobble because of Trengarade having to let off at sometimes. And once again, he's in a position to make a pass, but there's also a faster car in the GTP right behind them. Once again, and this time it's Laurent Raffregru who has just spun around behind him into the sand.
And he gathers it back up, gets it back out. Nothing ventured, nothing lost.
Yep, and I think if you are Trengarade, you're thinking at some time, partially, okay, now I don't have to move to the high side again, which has lost a lot of time in this exact section to Laughter.
Oh, and Brink has had an issue. Oh, and he got together with Rob Heiser. Multi-class racing. Just some miscommunication, it looks like there, Justin.
Yeah, just miscommunication, as you see there, coming out of the turn there. We'll see the replay again.
Oh, while that's going on, oh, never mind. I thought Trengarade was making a move, but he wasn't. We'll see on this.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, but you see, though, with the replay that the GTO, I think, just wasn't expecting the Brink to have as possibly want as much more room as on the exit, leading to both of them spinning around. Heiser, you see, in 9th in his class, still running around, but still a bit of damage now from Lambert Brinks. He's still lucky to hold on to 7th, though. Yep. He has a long distance until Rory Collins reaches him.
And there it is again, that gap you can see, and they're both in the same Dougie Beard frame there as Richie and Lepisto. You can see them both.
Yeah, Richie, you see there in the GTP weaving his way through the snake right now, but once again, you have the traffic. Guess what? That's our other battle again. And Lepisto, I think, is taking advantage. Lepisto's just weaving through with crossover moves, not even saying thank you at that point, wanting to just catch up with that battle. And
the battle behind in the GTOs continues. You know, if their hometown has anything to do with it, you'd have to favor Trengereid. He's from Norway, where there's lots of twisty roads to deal with, up and down the mountains and the fjords. Laughter is from the Great Plains, where it's flat and straight. He probably is not as familiar as turning the car left and right. That probably has nothing to do with it at all, but I thought it was an interesting piece of trivia to put in.
I am not sure what that has to do with this at all, but with Laughter here, with the GTPs, I think Trengereid can close it up again here in Spoon, and Trengereid just can't get underneath for the pass as we are approaching in the 2 minutes 20-second mark. That's about a lap and a half maybe to go.
Got one driver dealing with mountains and fjords. You got the other one dealing with corn and hay fields. I gotta go with the Norwegian on this one to get this one done. My goodness, what a great job from Ben Laughter. He has been pressured the whole time as another Nissan goes by. That's Rob Bolanek. They go through the Casio Triangle. Just under 2 minutes of racing to go. How long will Trengereid wait? Because he pokes, he prods. He's like an annoying doctor doing a physical.
Well, right now, here's the thing. Keith Ritchie has already passed the start and finish line, and it's about, by estimate, about 10 seconds, I think, is going to be between the next time he crosses the line and when the white flag is going to come out. So that could have the factor in terms of how quick it is for Ritchie to get to the start and finish line for that battle with Laughter, because Stolbeck has essentially all but sealed the GTO lead.
Ritchie just had to work his way around John Malia, who is running second. Boy, that's a quiet second place for that driver in the GTOs. And the gap shrunk down to under a second, but then once he was able to get around it, it's now 1.3. He has the leader up in front of him, Brian Strodbeck. This is going to be one of these cases where the sun and the moon align, and we'll be able to show both our leaders on the same screen here. Strodbeck has almost a 9-second lead. He can be very, very polite as the faster class leader goes by. And they catch him in a very good spot. Strodbeck, a veteran, knows how to do it. He's going to let Ritchie by. And look at the draft. There's Lepisto, tucks right in behind, trying to get every ounce of speed he can off that fatter car of Strodbeck. The gap now 0.8 of a second.
Yeah, that's exactly what you need to do in this situation. Once again, take advantage of the things around you. That is to taking advantage of the car to get the pole to gain an extra 10th. And right now, with them coming towards the front straightaway, this could be the white flag lap.
They cross the start-finish line with about 8 seconds remaining on the clock, so I'm going to assume this is it. That gap now 0.6 of a second.
Yeah, the white flag officially now out, as you see on your screen. So this battle, even more so bigger with it now 0.7 for Lepisto behind.
Now, unfortunately, Lepisto, if he wants to make a move, he's going to have to do it somewhere probably before the Casio Triangle. You can do it into the Casio Triangle. There's not a lot of drag strip left after you come out of there, as that start-finish line is way early in the main straight. Ritchie might have just been toying with Lepisto like a cat playing with a mouse right now as the gap begins to stretch back out to 1.3 seconds. We'll keep an eye on this one. Meanwhile, Laughter is able to hang on to that battle for third. A couple prototypes have just gone by and have crushed Trengereid again. Wallet just went through, and Mukanos, that's going to open up the gap a bit. Meanwhile, our leader now in the GTPs is out of Spoon, heading down. We haven't talked much about it. It's a scary corner, 130R. Probably not quite so scary in these cars as these have with the downforce. Now here comes Ritchie working through the Casio Triangle. Oh my goodness, he has a close call there with the lap car. He's going to get the look at this though. Here comes Lepisto. If only the start-finish line was farther down. We got to jump back because Strodbeck now is going into the chicane as well. It's not going to be nearly as exciting for Strodbeck as it was for Ritchie and Lepisto. Strodbeck goes left, Strodbeck goes right. Now he's got the final corner. The skinny pedal goes down, gives a little squiggle to the fans. And Brian Strodback gets the win in the GTOs. All right, now let's go back to Laughter. Here comes Laughter. Here comes Trengarade on the outside of the Casio Triangle. Trengarade gets the left side tires on the grass. He can't get it wound up, but a great job of car control. Nevertheless, Trengarade is going to get credit for fourth. Laughter is going to get the podium.
Yeah, just tried to get it into the triangle as quick as he could to get the pass, just could not do it. Keith now on your screen battling still with 7th.
They go down in, diving it in deep, locking it up is Collins. He's totally blows the corner, but it really doesn't matter as he has a big cushion between him and Lambert Brink behind. Collins is going to get what we believe going to come across in 8th position. Let's make that official. Sometimes timing and scoring a little bit off. 8th, yes. Keith gets 7th. And I believe those are all the battles that are going on. I think everyone else have pretty much settled down. So as the rest of the drivers come around to finish their final lap, what we'll do here in the Global Sim Racing channel is take a short break. Don't go far, because even though the racing is done, our broadcast is not. We'll be done to run down the entire finishing order, talk to some of the drivers, before we put a lock on the Origami Pretzel for the final time, closing up the season. Back in a few. Welcome back to the Global Sim Racing Channel's coverage of iRacing Kamel GT Series, the final round from Suzuka. And we had an exciting one. Before we get to the point standing, or the final finishing order, let's take a look at this very last corner here in the GTO, in the GTPs. This is the battle between Richie and Lepisto. They come up right behind the slower traffic car of Rob Heiser. Now, Heiser probably drifts a little farther out than Richie thought. Watch as they come out of this corner. Heiser kind of drifts out. Richie really has to go wide, and look at the run then that Lepisto gets. If only they had moved the start-finish line a little farther down. Somebody needs to talk to the guys who made Talladega and understand where to put a start-finish line to get the most excitement. And there you have. That's how Keith Ritchie, who dominated the race, ends up with the win, but only by 1/10 of a second over Antti Lepisto. And we can bring up our standings now. And there we go. Jamie Hall gets 3rd place, 8 seconds back. Rob Olenek in 4th, 13th back from the leader. And rounding out the top 5, Nicholas McConnell, who was not without incidents. Clayton McLeod, John Keefe. John Keefe was talking about, man, I thought the whole race he didn't have anybody that was more than a second away from him. He battled the whole time. Rory Collins, Lambert Brink go 9th and 10th, or 8th and 9th. 10th position to Martin Keserik. Hidoiki Koivisto in 11th position. Jason Wallet, Larry Crump go 12th and 13th, rounding out the cars that were up front in the prototypes, finishing 14th, Laurent Rafagu. Then we get down to Justin, who's going to talk about the GTOs.
Thank you very much. Brian Stolbeck came away with the victory easily in the GTOs by about 8 seconds over John Mahala, who came away with the 2nd place finish. It was a close finish for 3rd spot to get on the podium, though, as Ben Lafter came away with the 3rd place finish after Tengarade could not get around. A very close battle lasting for just about the whole entire race, but Tengarade coming away in 4th. Franco Scurry finished off the top 5, while Miroslav Jurasek, had 20 incident points, struggling at times. That tied for the most with incident points in the race with Tengarade. Still came away with 6 with a car that was decent throughout the entire race. Jason Dumfrey came just behind him in 7th spot in the class, while Borislav Robanek came away behind him. Rob Heiser, he was 4 laps down on the grid and had some trouble at times during the race, still came away to the finish line. Now, 3 cars did not finish the race, 2 I should say, because one of the cars in the GTPs decided to pit. That was Michael Steiner, who pit, losing about 3-4 laps. John Hill also did not finish the race as one of the 2 DNFs. The GTO DNF was Michael Frost. Bill?
Let's go ahead and see if we can talk to our series champion and our race winner today, Keith Ritchie. Now, we have a new interview booth that's a little fancier than before. It has nice wood tables here and suede chairs, so sometimes the drivers get a little intimidated. Let's make sure he can actually hear us. Mr. Ritchie, do you have a copy?
I do. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we got it, Keith. Hey, congratulations on what we're calling a championship. You feel pretty secure that you got the championship locked up?
Yeah, this is the last race of the season. And by the way, I like what you guys have done with the place. Looks good. No, it's been a really fun season. As always, this series is just full of excitement, full of fun, start to finish, and made it a real nice, fun finish today with Antti closing up the gap there. I knew I wasn't going to catch the Audi prior to that final chicane and was just trying to get a good run off of that, but he obviously got a better run than I did. And so, yeah, that was a real fun race, real fun finish. I love the track. It's also, I think, suitable for this series. I think it works well for traffic management. So just a load of fun.
Yeah, we talked about the placement of the finish line being so early, so close to the Casio Triangle there. That helped you out. A little farther down the straightaway might have been a different story.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I was looking to see if I would have stayed ahead to the next line down the straight there. It would have been extremely close because he was definitely much quicker down the straight there.
You know, we kept watching and I kept expecting you to pull away. It looks like you had the pace and you would open up the gap. And then I guess traffic would just bring him right back. And boy, next thing go back to you, and what was maybe a 3-second lead, then it's down to like 1.2 seconds. Traffic tough, huh?
It can be tricky. You also have to be kind of careful to make sure that doesn't end your race. I'd rather battle for position than to have it end by some kind of incidental contact in traffic. And so I tend to be a little cautious if I have a little bit of a gap to work with. But I think that Ante was much better through traffic today and closed the gap every time. I think he had an opportunity to do so. And so nice congrats to him for doing that and having a great, strong finish today.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I think we noted it on the broadcast. We saw you being very cautious when you'd come up on a battle in like a GTO battle. You were very careful. And it's a different mindset, maybe a little easier to be cautious when you're out in front than if you're chasing somebody.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think that you've kind of got, you can smell blood, when you can see the gap closing, and you'll push a little harder to try to close that. And when you have the lead and you're just trying to conserve tires and not, remain focused, it's a little bit of a different mindset. And I definitely didn't want to spoil any of the races or battles because there were some real tight GTO battles as well. I can't wait to go back and watch those, and didn't want to mess those guys up. But sometimes just kind of finding the time to slide in between and through two guys that are racing head to head is really tricky to do. But I think we're able to keep that pretty clean.
But get you out of here on this question. Is this your favorite car on the iRacing service? It's tough not to be, I guess, if you win a championship, but is this your car of choice?
Without question. It's what I race exclusively now. I've been in iRacing for a little over 4.5 years, I think. And, started up with Mazda, Mustang, and the Caddy and GT3. And I've tried, quite a bit of the road cars. And once the GTP and GTOs were released, I've just fallen in love with the series and stuck with it. And as far as multi-class racing goes, I don't think it can be beat on the services if people put in the time to practice. And, that's really the key, is preparation and being ready. And it makes the races interesting, start to finish.
Well, congratulations on the win today.
Yep.
Congratulations on the championship. And hopefully GSRC can come back and we'll watch you next season.
Yeah, absolutely. Great broadcast today, guys. Thanks for all your great coverage.
Okay, there you have it. Keith Ritchie, our winner today and our champion. Justin, who you got?
I have with me right now Ben Laughter. Ben Laughter, have you found your way to the broadcast booth well, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm in here.
Okay, good. You can hear us in a brand new broadcast booth for interviews, of course. Nice wood tables, nice suede couches. But of course, you had a very intense race where you came away third in the GTOs today. Tell us how you were feeling after coming away with the finish in a close one in your Commodore Audi.
Well, first off, what can I say about racing Ove, man? This GTO field and the GTP field are full of respectful, highly talented, wonderful drivers who will fight you and push you and do everything they can to pressure you, but will never intentionally take you out. It's a very clean series, and that was an absolute pleasure to race against Ove. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it looked like an intense battle. I was just about to ask, how was it to try and manage that battle between yourself and Tengaray throughout basically about 35 minutes of this race?
Well, simple fact is Ove is faster than me, right? I have no illusions about that. So I make myself wide. I put myself at the apex and try to defend when I have to, and I tend to get away with them sometimes. So again, just a really respectful and awesome race. I do have to say this has been an amazing season on GSRC and in the Camel GT community. I think I came away with this top 3 overall and Division 2 champion. So I'm absolutely pumped. This is a blast of a race and a great season.
Then I got 2 questions for you, Soup here. First of all, now tell me, correct me if you think I'm wrong on this one. I thought Ove was faster than you on the technical sections, but unfortunately he just couldn't get around you there.
Yeah, so gearing has a lot to do with these cars setup, right? That's one of the main levers you can pull when you're setting up for the week. And so he's probably just overall a better driver than I am, and so he's going to be better on those twisty bits. But I feel like I was getting a better launch out of the triangle down those straights, right? So if you can gap him on the straights, then and have that 0.4, 0.3 seconds distance, then he's not going to catch you. I think his gearing was better set for the twisties than it was for the straights.
Okay, now this is probably Justin made probably one of the more foolish comments I've ever heard on a broadcast. He was thinking that you were at a disadvantage because you're from the Great Plains, where it's flat and straight, and Ove is from Norway, where it's twisty. Do you think just growing up had anything that you're at a disadvantage because of the flatness of where you live?
Well, I grew up in Europe. I didn't. I was a military brat. I grew up in Europe. I live now in Oklahoma. But he's absolutely right that here it's just straight lines and right angles. So you don't get a lot of driving skill in the streets of Oklahoma City.
Hey, well, thanks a lot for the kind comments about GSRC. We're glad you enjoyed the show. Hopefully we can come back and do this again next season.
I hope so.
All right, here we go. That was Ben Laughter, finishing third today and finishing well up in the points on the standings. Justin, are we done? Is there anybody else that came in to talk to us? I think we're through, huh?
I think so, but it was a great race for sure today. Some intense battles lasting for just about the entire race, and a good way to cap off basically the 2017 season sessions, coming into the 2018 season 1 coming up in about a week and a half.
And first of all, before I do the thank yous, got to give a personal thank to you. Thanks for getting us through this. We're the second string team coming in here, filling in for Joe and Sean. Hopefully you enjoyed the broadcast. We did the best we could. Those guys will be back next season. Hopefully GSRC will be back to cover this series because, man, it is exciting. So let's thank everybody in that Kamel GT community. You know, it's a participation. It's funded by those guys. They contribute. We're glad to do the best job we can. We hope you guys enjoy the show. We hope to be back. Thanks to the company's equipment and software that you see on the screen right now that we use on the broadcast. You know, the original music that gives every GSRC broadcast that unique flavor and feel is thanks to Eric Echolm and Casey Lalonde. See the screen for how to contact each of them. With this being the season finale for GSRC's coverage of the iRacing Kamel GT Series, it has concluded. Hopefully things will fall into place and GSRC can return to bring you yet another season of exciting 80s sports car action. For more information about GSRC, your best bet is GlobalSimRacingChannel.com. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel. Finally, on behalf of my booth mate, Justin Prince, our director, Amjad Yaman, our camera artist, Dougie Beard, and the first string commentating crew, Joe Peak and Sean Crackers Ambrose, I'd like to thank all of you for watching. With that said, we're off to have fun storming the castle. So until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.